Hello fellow Clashers, I am KairosTime and it is time to clash, or talk about Clash at least. Today we're going to be taking a look at the tournament tier list powered by StatsRoyale.com. This is version 6, applicable to October and November of 2017. Hope you enjoy! As far as some changes to how this tier list is made, the win rates and use rates are in the comments section and the description below. If you are interested in taking a deep dive look into all the usage, win rates, and how they've changed since the last tier list, you can do so. However, I am going to be including some notable stats at the end of this video. Now, I did want to quickly mention that Stats Royale is an absolutely amazing website, and it is used by so many players, and there is so much data that is going into StatsRoyale.com. In fact, I heard Ash do an interview with the guy that runs StatsRoyale.com, and he was talking about how it's a top 30 website in the world. Like, Stats Royale, top 30 in the world, absolutely insane. And because of that, their site was actually getting a little overwhelmed with how much was going onto there and all of the data that was being pulled from the game. There are millions of games that go into, that people play on Clash Royale probably every day, and that's a lot of data to sift through, and their site was slowing down. So because of that, they actually changed some of the ways that they're doing their stats. Rather than keeping track of a 5-day period of stats, they're moving it down to 1 day of stats. And rather than separating between classic and grand challenges, they are just putting them all right into there. So the stats in this video are going to be classic and grand challenges, but we're still talking about hundreds of thousands of matches, which is just incredible. So are the stats going to look a little bit different? Absolutely. But are they going to still be useful? Totally. Absolutely useful, and very great. So those are some stat changes that I wanted to briefly mention. Thanks for hearing that. Now let's go ahead and move on. The F tier. We're going to start with the F tier and make our way up to the S tier. The F tier, we don't want to talk about these guys too much. Basically, these are the cards that just aren't really great for competitive tournaments. Not the ladder. Some of them may be useful in the ladder, like if you overlevel them. Royal Giant and the Elite Barbarians, for example. But as far as competitive gameplay, these cards just are not that great. New to the F tier, I don't have any new cards to talk about in the F tier. Then we do have the C tier. These are cards that are, they're fair in the competitive tournament, or in tournaments. There are definitely some decks that utilize these cards, and these cards fit specific roles that work well in some competitive decks, but they don't work in a lot of different decks. They typically have to have a very specific role to really work out. Here are the new, or the old C tier cards you can take a look at there. New to the C tier includes the Lava Hound. Now, the Lava Hound has actually been dwindling in usage and win rate way back since, gosh, how long has it been? It's been a while. It's been going down for a really long time, and it's continued. And finally, I just feel like the Lava Hound just doesn't quite fit into the B tier anymore. The Balloon is still getting used. Even without the Lava Hound, you have Balloon Cycle, you have Balloon with Giants, and the Balloon, and even Mega Knights. There's competitive decks with the Balloon in there, and Balloon's a great card, but Lava Hound's just kind of lagging behind there. Then we do have the Dark Prince. Now the Dark Prince, when it got a buff, not the most recent buff or challenge, or Spaghelatons, not the most recent challenge balance updates. Wow, I still couldn't even say it. Couldn't even try on attempt 2. Wow, there you go. But when he first got buffed, people were playing around with him, testing around and seeing the waters with it, and there were some competitive decks that actually used him, including some like Three Musketeer decks and stuff. But honestly, it just, now that time has gone by and people just realize that there are just better options than the Dark Prince. He's not as bad as he used to be. He's definitely not F tier, but he's not B tier anymore either. Then we have the Cannon Cart. Now the Cannon Cart actually had one of the lowest use rates and for the entire time period that all of this data was collected. One of the lowest use rates, but one of the highest win rates, actually. And that suggests a high skill card. Other cards that are fall into the similar category where they have really low use rates but really high win rates include like the Mortar and the Expo. High skill card that can be used and provide a lot of value if you use it right for a specific type of deck, typically graveyard decks. That's right. The cannon card seems to be doing well with some types of graveyard decks, graveyard cycle decks actually, because of its ability to really offer some quick threat value in there. Very interesting card in there. Then we also do have the Mortar. Now the Mortar, also really low usage rate, a pretty good win rate. This is a competitive card that a lot of people have been talking about, like Kairos. Mortar shouldn't be F tier. It's used in competitive gameplay, and I've been paying attention to it, and it really has been. The Mortar, not quite good enough to go up into B tier, I don't think yet, but we'll see. I'll keep an eye on it, and let me know what you guys think about the Mortar. Do you think it should be F tier? Do you think it should be C tier, B tier? Possibly S tier? Okay, we're not going to go that far, but it is usable in the ladder, especially, but competitive tournaments, we're seeing some of that. Next, we do have recently buffed Spear Goblins going from the F tier into the C tier. Are they usable now? Yeah, they're usable. You can't ignore them like you used to be able to do so. And they're still easily cleared, so they're not going up past C tier, but they're not down in F tier anymore, that's for sure. I still think they could use a little bit of a buff, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But my biggest thing is I think there should be 4 of them, and maybe a little bit less powerful, and I think there should be 4 of them. I'll talk about that later on. Now, B tier. These cards are good. You can use them in a lot of different types of decks. They fill multiple roles. There might be some cards that are a little bit better than them, but there are definitely some cards that are a lot worse than them. Here previously, B tier cards over to the right, the left. I'm backwards here. The right, that's my right. But new to the B tier is Sparky. She made it, guys. Sparky is up into the out of the F tier. Finally, after comments and comments and comments on my channel just saying Sparky needs a buff or Sparky's amazing. Everybody thought that Sparky was amazing. I really didn't think Sparky was good, guys. But she is good, you know. She's usable. There's definitely some competitive decks that you can play around with the Sparky. She definitely adds some threat value. Now, is she super competitive? Is she like the highest, the best kind of card out there? No, I don't think so, because Electro Wizard, despite his nerf, is still very much in the arena, guys. He's very usable, so very highly used, that's for sure. So, but Sparky's in here, and that's great. We also have the Graveyard going from the C to the B tier. Basically, the Graveyard was reworked to have a smaller radius, but a slightly, one more skeleton, but it takes longer for those skeletons to start spawning. And overall, I think that was a buff to the Graveyard. It's still pretty easy to counter the Graveyard if you time things right, and it gives you plenty of time to prepare for that. But the Graveyard definitely is better than it used to be, and I'm excited to see another win condition going up and being usable. Next, we have the Lumberjack. Now, I think that you have to consider choosing between the Lumberjack and the Mini P.E.K.K.A. if you want that type of a card in your deck. He's used in some Golem type decks, and even some Balloon cycle decks, interestingly enough, and he's a good card. Then we do have the Tesla Tower, and I am actually really thrilled about this buff, guys. I think the Tesla Tower is in a very sweet spot right now, where it's not overpowered, it's not annoying to deal with, it's not like, oh, they have a Tesla Tower, screw this game. No, you don't. No, the Tesla Tower is in a sweet spot where it's actually usable, and I really like that. I'm having some success with it on my ladder deck, and that's nice. That's not this video though. That's ladder tier list. We can talk about that later. But right now, competitive tier, we are seeing the the Tesla being used, and it actually had a really big increase in win rate. We'll talk about that later. New to the A tier. The A tier is the cards that are very good. They just are very good for the meta. There's some counters to them. They're not overpowered. I don't think they need a nerf. Hog Rider, I don't think he needs a nerf. We'll talk about him later. But yeah. And there's definitely a lot of cards that are worse than them. Definitely not as meta-defining as S tier cards. New to the A tier is the Inferno Dragon. The Inferno Dragon offers a lot of value on defense for getting rid of tanks and things like that. And if you can sacrifice some tower damage onto your on your tower, then he's even an okay job against Hog Riders, because he offers then value on offense as well, which the Inferno Tower does not do. Inferno Dragon seems to be a solid option. We also do have the Miner. Now in the previous meta, the Miner was so good because it was so hard to get any direct damage onto the enemy tower, and that is why the Miner was so solid, used in P.E.K.K.A decks, in Giant or Mega Knight decks, and all sorts of different types of decks, even Three Musketeer decks. Now, I still think the Miner is a very good option, but he's definitely not the #1 choice like I think he was. He's usable, but and the reason why, and I'll actually talk about that when I get to the P.E.K.K.A, so we'll do that. Next we have the Bandit. The Bandit, really solid option, I think so, but she doesn't have that kind of OP-ness feel that she did when she was glitchy and she would dash to troops before she really needed to. She'd be like 2 tiles away and be like, ah, and then she'd like run in there and power punch him. And she doesn't do that anymore. Now she walks over and she's like, and then she smacks him with her bat or whatever she has. Her nightstick? She's got a nightstick, I think. I don't know. But the Bandit, a good option. And then we have the P.E.K.K.A. The P.E.K.K.A fell into that similar category with the Miner, where there was so many fast offenses that required that the meta became very fast paced, and I talked about this in my video where I talked about the meta becoming a little bit too offensive, and I think Supercell's nerfing and balancing in the right direction there, guys, but that's another story. It's totally another video. But the P.E.K.K.A, I just don't think that the P.E.K.K.A is as #1 choice as she used to be. Now that we have Sparky, we have some more Spellbait being used, we also do have the Graveyard, all different kinds of decks that the P.E.K.K.A just does not counter, and that means that the P.E.K.K.A, and because the P.E.K.K.A doesn't counter them, she just virtually offers very little value in your deck because she's so easy to stop on defense. And the reason why she was so good is because she would defend and then provide her value on offense. And so when you're defending against her, she's not as much of a threat alone. And that's the P.E.K.K.A. So, but still, very good option. Still does a great job of defending against Mega Knights and Giants, Golems, all those big heavy tanks, and even Hog Riders. So still a very good option, just not quite OP like she used to be. Or she was never OP. She just had a chokehold on the meta, and I talked about that in a different video. Go watch that video if you haven't. Okay, now finally the S tier, the excellent tier. These are the cards that are meta defining, and you'll see the Mega Knight right there. The Mega Knight is just so strong, guys. He's so strong. I was actually really shocked that he did not get some type of a nerf in the last balance changes. I thought for sure he was going to, but he's still there and he's still very strong. You have to count on people playing the Mega Knight if you're playing in any type of challenge. Then we have the Electro Wizard. Now the Electro Wizard feels like he didn't even get a nerf. Like, I haven't checked the numbers. Did he actually get a nerf? I don't know, because he is still so versatile and offers so much value on both offense and defense. I really do think that he needs some type of a nerf. I think he needs another nerf. I think that he just needs to offer utility. I think his zap and his stun, I think that that is what he should do. I don't think that he should offer, and the fact that he splits off into 2 different directions, I think those are great, but I think he offers too much damage for what he does. Used in so many decks, and he's an obvious choice still, even though he got nerfed. I think he got nerfed. They told us he got nerfed. I didn't check the numbers. You guys can double check for me. Then we have the Log and the Zap, and that's obvious because they've always been, they're just so such great cards to consider. We also have the Ice Golem and the Bats as well. Definitely meta defining cards. Those Bats have basically forced Zap usage up, and they're pretty great. So new to the S tier, we have the Knight. Now the Knight, I have actually been considering moving him from the A tier up into the S tier for a very long time, and the win rates and usage rates just didn't quite justify it at the time, and I think that they do now. And I think the reason why is because he does such a good job at defending against Electro Wizards. and Mega Knights, and he even does a good job against Hog Riders, and he defends against Miners, and he can take against some Three Musketeers sometimes if you play him right and you have the right support. With a little bit of support, the Knight can even take out a Giant with that little bit of support. I mean, he's just so versatile on defense. He requires a response on offense. He's a common, so he's great in the ladder, and you just see the Knight all over because he's just really good. Really good card. Next we have the Goblins. Now the Goblins have I've had the Goblins in the S tier before, and then I moved them down, and now I'm moving them back up because of the decreased usage in log. Now that Zap is the preferred spell, the Goblins are able to get and do some damage. I mean, if you have an unsupported Hog Rider, so there's no Ice Spirit or anything like that, and their Hog Rider their deck only has Zap, they zap the Goblins, but then that doesn't do anything because the Goblins are like, no, okay, let's still take out the Hog Rider, and they're really solid. They're great against Miners. They're one elixir less than Miners. Very versatile response card, and also offers some value on offense if you in a lot of different situations. Next, we also do have the Goblin Gang. Now, I think that the Goblin Gang has always been a really good card, but the fact that they got that buff to the Spear Goblins, so they do a little bit more damage, just barely. Their usage rate is really high. Their win rate is really great. Those Spear Goblins at extra added damage just really did well for them. Now Zap will still take care of those Spear Goblins, absolutely, and they're still it's still not impossible to defend against them. But the fact that they do have, I mean, if you can catch your opponent without a log or without a Zap because they use it on something else like the bats, then the Goblin Gang's they're just gonna give great value. And great card, really great card, and I love seeing commons in here. I love how many commons are in this S tier because of the ladder. And I know this isn't a ladder video. I don't know why I keep on mentioning the ladder, but it's exciting. So, very cool. Now let's talk about notable stats. Highest usage and highest win rate. The top 3 cards are Hog Rider. No surprise there. Seems like everybody and their dog is playing Hog Rider. Everyone and their hog is playing Hog Rider. Hashtag Kairos made a joke. Ah, ha, ha. Oh, dad joke. There you go. The Hog Rider is just, now he has an above average win rate. Not the highest. Not even close to the highest. But he's definitely not close to the low. He is slightly above average as far as win rate. Do I think he needs a nerf? Well, what do you guys think? Put it in the comment section below. I don't think he needs a nerf. If he did need a nerf, I would consider just a very slight increase in the time that it takes for him to actually start moving after he gets spawned, so that you could respond to him. But why is he used so much? Because he's a rare, and so people level him up, and then they get used to him. They like using him, so they're like, oh, I play him in the ladder, now I'm going to play him into this tournament because I'm comfortable with the Hog Rider. So he's a rare, and that's why people use him a lot. He's also pretty, okay, I don't want to offend anybody, but he's a low skill use card. Like, you drop him at the river, and you help him get to the tower. Like, that's what you do. It's not like an expo where you drop it and then you have to focus on planting, and you have to focus on defending against the right cards before you're he's not like that. He's now, that being said, almost every deck has a counter to the Hog Rider. So the Hog Rider gets to the tower by somebody playing right to get stuff to there. So anyways, but Hog Rider, I could stop talking about that. I don't think he needs a nerf. I think he's pretty good where he's at. I think that I am surprised to see such a high usage rate though. But next we have the log and the zap. Not surprised by these. Zap being in almost half of the decks is just absolutely crazy. Now we're going to talk about highest win rates. I mentioned earlier that the stats look a little bit different than in previous videos, and that's because we're looking at one day's value, we're looking at grand challenges and classic challenges, and that does skew things a little bit. But also, a win counts when it comes to how Stats Royale calculates these out. A win equals a 1, a loss equals a 0 for that card. And then a draw equals 0.5. Because it equals 0.5, that skews win rates up towards 100%. And so 50% is not average win rate. 50% is actually really close to the lowest. We'll see the highest here, but about average is about 60%, just to give you guys just an idea of what we're taking a look at here. So, highest win rate, the Bandit, 71.5%. Really great card, even though she did get nerfed. She doesn't feel overpowered, but she does have a really high win rate because she does require some good responses to that. Next, we do have the Ice Golem, a great card on defense because he can distract, he can get rid of bats, he can slow things down, and he can also tank, just prevent things from getting to the tower for a specific amount of time. And he also offers great offensive value by acting as a tank for things like the Hog Rider, or even a Balloon, or the Graveyard. Great card to have in there. Just a solid. For 2 elixir, you can't get much better than the Ice Golem. Finally, we do have that Mega Knight at 74.2%, which is just incredible. The Mega Knight offers so much value on defense, so much value on offense, and he is a great card to be using. Once again, really shocked that he did not get a nerf. Now, lowest usage and lowest win rate. Now, I know you don't care too much about these, but it's interesting to at least look at. So, lowest usage, 0.3% on the heal. Not surprised. 0.3% on the cannon cart. Actually kind of surprised. It has one of the lowest usage rates, but also one of the highest win rates. It's actually pretty close to the Bandit. Very interesting card right there. Then we also do have the Bomb Tower. Really low usage rate. Surprisingly also one of the lowest win rates at a 48.1%. That's very low. We also have the Mirror at 48.0%. I find it very interesting that what people are calling one of the most competitive challenges in Clash Royale, the Mirror Challenge, also seems to be one of the worst cards in the game. I think that there's definitely something to that, and I like that. That's another video as well. Then the lowest win rate was the Rage at 47.4%. It's just awful. It's just not good. Okay, now let's take a look at highest increase of usage and highest increase of win rates. So first of all, we have the arrows. It has a 6.9% increase in usage. Not surprised to see that. I think the fact that people are using more minions in their deck and minion horde, and there's also some goblin gang in there. There's a lot of different reasons to be using the arrows, and I'm not surprised to see an increase in usage there. Now we do have the skeleton army and we have the wizard. Now both of these cards I wanted to just briefly talk about, just because they had such an increase in usage rate doesn't necessarily make them a great option. There's a lot of they're definitely being used now a lot. Now, in my previous videos, I was just taking a look at just grand challenges. I talked about how Stats Royale is no longer keeping track of separating the two of them. As such, there are a lot more free-to-play players that are used to using these kinds of cards in their decks. Skeleton Army, for example, is one of the highest used cards in all the arenas except for Arena 11. So Skeleton Army, highest used card everywhere in the ladder, and there's a lot of people that are familiar with the Skeleton Army. Doesn't make it a great card. In fact, both the Wizard and the Skeleton Army had a pretty bad win rates. Very big increase in usage rate, but I think that has something to do with it because of the way that we're changing the look at these stats. Still, we're looking at hundreds of thousands of matches, so that's really fantastic, very useful, but just a little bit different. Then we also have win rates. We have the Dark Goblin at 27.7 percentage point increase, which is just crazy. I think it's a good card. I don't think it's amazing, but it's interesting to see that. We also have that Cannon Cart, really shot up there. I think that the Cannon Cart really increasing win rate because of the few decks that are using it. Probably Graveyard decks. It works really great with Graveyard, and very interesting to see that Cannon Cart there. And I'm excited about this next one. The Tesla Tower has, it's still not one of the highest. I mean, it's close to the high, but it's not overpowered. But it did have a 26% increase as far as its win rate goes. which is just kind of crazy. That is it for notable stats. These are some of the fantastic collaborators that helped me put this tier list video together. If you are interested in really deep diving into these competitive tier lists, make sure you join my Discord server. There's a link to it in the description, and then once you do join there, ask for a tier list collaborator code, and there's that, and I'll give you more instruction. But Blaystone, Two Fix, Argle Bargle, Henry Rand, Just Adarsh, General NX, Batman, Team Airy, Kenichi, Bassi, Hassan Kapoor, thank you so much for your help. And thank you so much to you for watching these videos. I have got to tell you guys, I would not be spending the time and effort that I put into these videos if it were not for the amazing support and comments that you guys put in the section below. It just means so much to me that I'm taking this time, even though I'm in a doctorate program for graduate school and have no time. So thank you so much for that. And if you made it to the end of this video, make sure you show that support by putting #SpagheLitons in the comment section. You guys are fantastic. This is KairosTime ticking by, and we will see you in the arena.